Greetings! It's Monday, November the 18th, 2024, and this is the Daily Article Podcast. I'm Chris Elkins, narrating today's daily article written by Denison Forum co-founder and CEO, Dr. Jim Denison. Many women in America who are distraught over the recent elections are joining the 4B movement. The campaign originated a few years ago in South Korea. The 4Bs in the Korean language stand for Baihon, meaning no marriage, Bayeonai, no dating, Baichulsan, no birthing, and Bisex, meaning no sex. In other words, protesting what they perceive to be discrimination against their gender, women are choosing to not marry, date, have children, or have sex. One tweet promoting the movement generated 21 million views. A woman posted on TikTok stating that she was breaking up with her Republican boyfriend and joining the campaign. Her video has 39,000 comments at this writing. As another sign of our times, a cruise company is offering passengers a 4-year voyage to skip forward until the next presidential election, an opportunity the Associated Press calls an escape from the Trump presidency. Depending on your side of the partisan divide, you might be thinking good riddance to such passengers, or you might be wishing you could join them. However, the divisiveness that is persisting and even growing after the election is more dangerous than it might seem. As I noted last week, Americans do not serve a king or an autocrat, but one another. In our democracy, we vote for each other, do commerce with each other, and live in community with each other. If Americans cannot get along, America cannot get along. In what so proudly we hail the American soul and story, speech and song, the writers assert, quote, "The American Republic was founded as, and remains, a nation not of birth, lineage, or inherited ways, but of ideas. It was the first nation to define itself in terms of certain teachings and aspirations, what may be thought of as the American creed, the equal rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, freedom of religion and religious toleration, majority rule, minority rights, and the rule of law. However, this creed is not required of any who wish to be Americans. As the authors continue, we have never had an established national church or even an articulated national morality. Our tolerance and even encouragement of ethnic and religious pluralism is a great national strength, but it also poses a challenge for creating a deep national bond and spirit. As a result, our emotional ties to our separate ways and beliefs often exceed ties to our common national whole." End quote. America's founders adopted the motto E pluribus unum, out of many, one, envisioning a melting pot in which our previous cultural identities are merged into a new unity. They hope that encouraging trade and commerce would encourage unity in the midst of our diversity. But today, we are more of a salad bowl in which tomatoes are still tomatoes and lettuce is still lettuce. Prosperity has turned into greed and our fellow Americans into means to our ends. In addition, many in recent years have insisted not only on their individualism at the expense of the collective good, they have disparaged the collective itself. They claim that America's history begins not with the Declaration of Independence in 1776, but with the introduction of slavery to our shores in 1619. Through the lens of critical theory, universities across the land have taught generations of students that America is founded on white supremacy and that democracy is a means to the end of securing privilege for the privileged. Is it any wonder that, more than at any time since the Civil War, we have two Americas today? This question is therefore vital to our future as a democracy. How do we love people in ways that promote unity and community? This inevitably requires asking a second question. How do we love people we don't like? Truly loving each other and ourselves requires a capacity beyond human agency. Because we are fallen people, you and I simply do not possess the ability to love others or ourselves unconditionally. In our drive to be our own God from Genesis 3:5, we use others as a means to our ends and measure ourselves by what we do and what we have. What is the way forward? Henry Nouwen, one of the spiritual geniuses of the last century, wrote, "The first questions are not how much do we do or how many people do we help out, but are we interiorly at peace?" Nouwen explained, Jesus' actions flowed from his interior communion with God. His presence was healing, and it changed the world. Following our Lord's example, Nouwen continues, "When we love God with all our heart, mind, strength, and soul, we cannot do other than love our neighbor and our very selves. It is in being fully rooted in the heart of God that we are creatively connected with our neighbor as well as with our deepest self. In the heart of God, we can see that the other human beings who live on this earth with us are also God's sons and daughters and belong to the same family. There, too, I can recognize and claim my own belovedness and celebrate with my neighbors. Our society thinks economically. How much love do I give God? How much to my neighbor? And how much to myself? But God says, give all your love to me, and I will give you your neighbor and yourself. We are not talking here about moral obligations or ethical imperatives. We're talking more about the mystical life. Nouwen concluded, it is the intimate communion with God that reveals to us how to live in the world and act in God's name. I plan to say more about this vital topic tomorrow, but today, let's ask ourselves, how intimate is our communion with God? The health of our democracy and our souls depends on our answer. We're grateful for our podcast listeners. If you find the Daily Article podcast helps you better understand today's news and cultural issues and then respond biblically, please rate and review the Daily Article podcast on the platform from which you subscribe. That helps people find and follow the Daily Article podcast.